Well, good evening. I was just reminded that we need to speak up because of hearing aids and other kinds of needs. Folks need to be able to hear us. So this mic actually does not go to a loudspeaker, it goes to the camera. So we'll be the staff and I will hand this back and forth. But we'll also try to speak up, and if you don't hear us in the back, please raise your hand. We appreciate being invited tonight. This is what we call our City Focus meeting, which is kind of a traveling occasion where we go to neighborhood associations once a quarter and talk about current affairs with the city, things that are going on, things that we anticipate happening, and also to answer any questions that you might have. We are just now finished with the city budget process. Lima City Council just adopted the budget for 2013, and we're going to hear from Steve Cleaves in a minute, who's the city's finance director, and he'll talk about the budget. We also have other city staff here, and I'll individually introduce them, and they'll talk about what's going on in their department, and you can address questions to them as they finish up. So Chief Martin is here from the Lima Police Department, and we'll start with him. Chief?
Mayor, thank you. First of all, I would also like to introduce my very lovely wife, my better half, Christy. If you could stand up just for a moment. I will have to tell you, when I became chief, her boss decided that she should have a title also, and he came up with the perfect one for her. I may be the chief, but she's Miss Chief. Yeah. And I really can't think of anybody that title suits better. So, fortunately, at the police department, there is not really anything negative to talk about right now. As was discussed earlier this month, last month, earlier this year, at City Council, we did see a reduction in the overall UCR Part 1 crimes for last year. In running the numbers as of Friday, that trend is still continuing into 2013, which is a very good thing. When we looked at the overall UCR Part 1 crimes for the city, we aren't quite through the first quarter, but in comparison to the same time frame last year, we have seen a 3.6% reduction in those crimes. And I think that's especially noteworthy when you consider we've had a pretty mild winter. We've had a couple of cold blasts, but for the most part, it's been a rather mild winter. And normally, if we have a mild winter, we see more crime during that time. So I think that's a very good thing that we saw a reduction. And for anyone that maybe did not see the Lima News last Sunday or see the reply that I made on behalf of the officers that were mentioned in last Sunday's editorial by Thomas Lucente, he had made mention of the fact that, in his opinion, some officers had violated the Fourth Amendment. Well, quite frankly, they had not violated the Fourth Amendment, but I was actually very appreciative of Mr. Lucente writing that article because it actually gives us an opportunity to bring that up as an example of how our efforts to place officers in those areas of highest crime and how they target those quality of life types of issues is a very effective way of combating the drug problems and some of the other crime problems that we have in our neighborhoods. So again, I just would like to, in addition to just stating the fact that the officers' actions were looked at by a total of 4 different judges, 1 at the Common Police Court level and 3 at the Appellate Court level. All 4 of those judges, with a total combined experience in the judicial system of 149 years, looked at the officers' actions and said that it was, in fact, very proper, and that they did behave in a constitutionally correct manner. But also, I hope that the discussion that was generated from that will help to encourage people to keep calling us when you see something going on in your neighborhood that you think is suspicious or that you think might be crime taking place, because again, that is a perfect example of how we do in fact respond to those areas. We do in fact try to take whatever enforcement action that we can in order to help reduce the bigger problems like the drug problems or the other violence issues. I do want to mention that the Lima Police Department is currently up to our full budgeted staffing. We are approved, City Council has approved us for a total of 77 sworn personnel this year. Now I will throw in a couple caveats with that to make sure people understand. First of all, out of that 77, we do have one of those officers that is currently carried on our rolls that is on active military duty. So we actually have an effective strength of 76 right now. Also, that does not mean 76 police officers in patrol cars working the street. What that actually means is from my position all the way through every patrol officer's position, anyone who is a sworn member of the department. But that does give us a total active strength of 76 with hopefully Officer Shepard will be returning on time later this year and will bring us up to that full budgeted strength of 77. But with the additional officers, we have been able to replace the ones that left last year. We had some unexpected attrition where people left us for other positions, either in other public agencies. In one case, it was for the private sector. But we have gotten those people replaced. We currently have 2 of the new police officers that we hired at the Ohio State Highway Patrol Basic Police Academy. They will not actually be coming back until June. But as soon as they get back, they've already been through our in-house training, so as soon as they get back, we will be able to get them into the field training program and get them started. And I'm really looking forward to that because both of the gentlemen that will be coming back from the academy I think are going to be very fine officers, as is everyone else that we've been able to hire within the last year. The last thing I wanted to point out is that next Saturday we will have our first Coffee with a Cop for 2013. That is going to be at the Market and Metcalf Street McDonald's from 10 a.m. to noon. And again, along with myself, Sheriff Krish will be there, and we'll each have probably one other member from our agency. We're scaling it back a little bit because there's in times past I think we've had too many people there, and it's actually when they see people coming by seeing all these extra police cars out there, if they're not sure what's going on, it's actually scared business away. So we're going to scale that back. But again, the sheriff and I will both be there. We'll be available for any questions, comments, or concerns that you'd like to pass on. So hopefully we'll get to see everyone there. McDonald's is being very gracious in providing free coffee. So if you drink coffee like I do, that's a big draw. But that is all I have. Thank you, Mayor. Or I guess I should ask, does anyone have any questions?
Wasn't a question, but I appreciated your article today and the editorial congratulating those 2 officers. So that's nice to see you're saying good about your officers. So yeah. That was nice.
Well, thank you. And I will say I've been very blessed. I've got a great group of officers that I like the opportunity to brag about them once in a while. So thank you. Well, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Staying consistent with the safety service theme, we have Chief Mark Hefner here from the Lima Fire Department. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry it took so long. I had to sit in the back. I was sitting on the couch relaxing. I've just spent 2 days with a 4-year-old and 18-month-old granddaughter. So anybody got grandkids, you understand. I'm going to sleep well tonight. Well, Chief, as with Chief Martin, things are going pretty well with the Lima Fire Department. After some years of being careful with what we spend, making things last longer than they should, we're in the opportunity now we can make some corrections and update some of our equipment. We're going to hire some people this year, and that's all good. I mean, that's going to be great for the fire department. It's going to be great for the citizens of this community. Right now, we're putting the finishing touches on specifications for a new engine. It takes us a while to do this. We've been about 5 or 6 months in the process because it's a very expensive piece of equipment. We want to make sure we get it right. So we're down to the last week or so, and I'm expecting to have a contract or something that we can get to Mr. Cleaves here soon. With any luck, he will approve it, as will council, and I think we'll be able to move forward and have this by the end of the year. It's needed, but there's a long lead time, so we won't see it until the end of the year. So first part of next year, with any luck, you can come by and see our new fire truck. And I'll be happy to give tours because I love showing off new shiny stuff. We were also recently awarded $98,000 excuse me, through FEMA. FEMA awarded us this money because we're in need of bunker gear. Now that's the gear the firefighters wear. Sometimes it's black. Ours, we have this nice yellow color. It's got their names on the back and all kind of stuff. From helmets all the way down to the boots. Normally it runs us about $3,000 a set. So it's pretty expensive to replace it. It has a shelf life, believe it or not, 10 years, and the recommendation is you need to go out and get new. And it's a very expensive proposition. Normally we budget $25,000 or $30,000 a year to replace that. This year we'll be able to replace about 60% of our personnel, replace their gear, mostly with this grant. 90% of it comes from federal government. Of course, we'll have to chip in 10%, but that's still going to be much less than we normally chip in every year. Plus, it'll give us the additional money. This should make it easier for us to purchase for the new people, which is on to my next good thing that's happening in 2013. We're also in the process, excuse me, of hiring some new personnel. For the first time in about 3 years, we actually have some retirees this year. We're looking at people who are going to retire. We've got 4 people scheduled to retire and could be up to 9. I don't expect that to happen because I'm one of them and I'm staying. So the expectation is we'll hire 4, maybe 5 people this year. It's a long process for us. We do background checks, we do interviews, we do testing. Where we've done the testing, we've sent out letters, we're in almost to the interview process. The expectation is by the 1st of May we'll have 4 or 5 candidates we can send to the mayor for his appointment. When they lucky, he'll appoint them. Send them off to school for 8 weeks. They will come back. And then we have a similar field training program, not as intensive as the police department has, but we do put them on the trucks with us. We let them see some fire, see how they perform, and then we just guide them for about 6 months. And then pretty much they're on their own. At that point, they're on their own from the firefighting side. Then we look at them, we kind of see if we can get them to pursue an EMT or a paramedic certification. Paramedic certification runs about 2 years. And since we've been in the EMS transport business for about 3 years, that's a need for us. We really do need paramedics. So we're hoping that some of the people we bring on actually have this certification because on the numbers we've run show we can save $300,000 by hiring somebody that already has this certification. It's that long, it's that expensive, and it's that important. We have some very good people on our list. We're hoping the interviews play out well. We hope we get some very good people. And there's a lot of people from the city of Lima, already reside in the city of Lima, and we think that's a good thing. And a final thing we're looking at this year, again, it's upgrade and technology to help our people. We're looking to put mobile data terminals, essentially computers in our fire trucks. Something a lot of places have been doing for many, many years. But with the updates that PD is going to do to their dispatching software, it allows us, it gives us a chance now to make these useful for us. It gives us instant information instead of having to go through pamphlets. We pull up on a house, or normally it's not a house fire, but you pull up on a commercial structure or an apartment structure. In the past, as we still do, we get in the back of the truck, pull out our binder, go through the binder, all the hand-drawn stuff, and see what's what. Now the problem with that system, if anybody of you ever used something like that, is if there's a change somewhere, well then you have to go to every binder and make sure the change is it's updated, make sure people have the correct information. With these data terminals, with the new software, once we get out, we input this information, everybody gets the information instantly. We'll be able to talk back and forth without tying up the radio, which is easier on the dispatchers, it lessens some of their workload. And there's a whole boatload of other things that we haven't even found yet that's going to make our operations more efficient and be safer for our men. Mostly because we'll know the hazards of the particularly businesses and the commercial and some of those other structures we have to get into. So for us, I'm hoping 2013 is a very good year. Hope it's a good year for you people. I hope we don't have to see you, but if we do, don't be afraid to call. We're always happy to come out. We do our best work out of the station. So if you have any questions, I've got nothing else, but if you got any questions, I'm willing to take them and make a half-hearted attempt at an answer. In that case, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. The Chief mentioned, he used the term dispatch software. That's all of the, when you call into the police department, the operators are actually not just answering the phone, there's a whole set of computer terminals in front of them, and the software system that drives all of that has not been replaced in the police department since 1987. So you can imagine how much change has occurred in computers and software. We're just now in the process of being able to move ahead with that upgrade, and that then, because it's not just the dispatch, the sending out of the police, it's also the dispatch of the fire department that happens through that same system. Rick Stolley, our Parks Director, is also here, and Rick had I think a busy weekend with his in-laws are the Burks, so he was part of the Burke clan in the St. Patty's Day parade, and I think he had a good time.
Oh yeah, I have to say that on TV, I guess. I told the mayor the other day, you have to look below the fine print in the prenuptials to see the things that you're really responsible for after you get married, and one of them was the St. Patty's Day parade. So, and not just being in it, but you got to assemble the float and do all those things too. But that's the fun part. It's great to be here. Really glad to be out tonight. And tell you that we got a lot of things going on with the parks. Since we really kind of put some of our equipment away for the winter, we right before that we spent a lot of time over in Froat Park at Ladyfinger Pond, a pond that we used to right there top of Cole Street. It got a lot of moss and algae and things growing on the pond itself. So we were able to get that dredged and do some work there and make a new safety bank for people. So we got in and cleared out some of the brush, and we got to pull all that out of there now. But once we've got it piled up, but it's really been a nice project. It's been a long time coming. We're going to be getting out into all of our parks here in the next couple of weeks. As I think some of you remember, last year at this time, we were already ready to start mowing about this time, but we're a little bit behind with that with the weather, and that's fine. We'll get out there as soon as we can, as soon as the weather starts making the grass grow again, and that can wait a little bit as far as I'm concerned. But we'd like to go for it to warm up a little bit, and get people out into the parks. A couple weekends here, we've had some nice weather. We've had people out walking and getting through the different parks. So we're open for business, but we're going to get them all spruced up and ready to go here before too long. We also are in the process right now of getting some new equipment out at the skateboard park that was well needed, and the guys have spent a lot of the winter months rebuilding and assembling and refurbishing some of the different ramps and so forth over there. So that will be coming out here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see a lot of traffic over at that part of I guess it's on the south side of Froat Park. We're moving into doing a lot of different things. We got some equipment last year that's going to help us improve some of our mowing, a hillside mower and a couple of other area mowers that are going to help us knock down some of the time that we spend out in the parks with some of our equipment that's really become somewhat aged, 10, 13-year-old pieces of equipment that we need to replace. And so we're moving forward with some of those things. Our seasonal hiring is going to start here. We've just set the last part of last week with interviews for a playground program and some of the activities with the pool, with lifeguards and so forth, and our summer maintenance staffing that comes in. And now that the colleges, for the most part, are getting out at the end of April, first part of May, it makes it a little bit nicer for us to be able to get some of those kids in where before we weren't getting them in until June, sometimes the middle of June. So we've been through that interview process. We're going to continue that for another week or so, and I think we've been through about 40 interviews now, and just quality young men and women from throughout Lima that are coming back home, for their college break or summer break, and then some of them are just getting ready to head off to college. Some high school seniors that we're going to be a part of. Look forward to being a part of our summer programming with the playground program and the pool, and then some of our summer maintenance things. So we're very busy, getting things geared up. Getting out, we'll get the restrooms back opened up as the weather permits. Once it stops, or the temperatures get up above freezing, so we don't lose any of those plumbing fixtures and so forth in our restrooms. So a lot going on, and we look forward to getting you out and enjoying either a baseball game or a softball game, or just coming out for a walk through the park and enjoying what Lima parks have to offer. Does anyone have any questions for us tonight? Very good. Well, if you need to, check us out on the website, and be more than happy to answer any phone calls or anything that you have for us at any time. We're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Thank you.
We, this past week, just added a new insignia to the city's website, which is related to Rick's responsibilities. We now have, there's a little insignia that looks like a little walker that we've placed on the front page, the home page of the website. And that, if you click on it, will tell you, take you to a page that lists events involving running or walks or related kinds of events. We've discovered, frankly, that while there are lots of those events that take place, there's actually 35 to 40 of them a year that take place in our community. Only the people that generally have been participating or are part of the network, so if it's somebody that's doing a fundraiser for MS or a fundraiser for the canine, what do we call the, pardon? Angels for Animals, there's a number of those events, now can go to that website and very easily find those activities. It's part of what we're trying to do as what is called Activate Allen County, which is an overall attempt to get people engaged in physical activity. And I know, looking at all of you, that with Rick's mention about the upgrades to the skateboard park, we got any number of competitors in this room that really would like to take advantage of those kinds of features in our parks. But there are also those walking events that all of us can participate in, and we'd encourage you to do that. Public Works Director Howard Elstra is here with an update on what's happening in his department.
Thank you, Mayor. As this group probably knows, because I've been here once or twice, Public Works has 4 different divisions: Parks, Recreation, Forestry. It also has Street Division, and Mr. Saul Allen is here, and he will speak to you about what's going on in streets. We have our Building and Zoning Division and our Engineering Division. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about engineering projects. Real briefly, there are 2 major projects that you'll see under construction inside the city. One is the Bell Fountain Market Street project. We have arranged for a various amount of grant funds to come together, which will allow us to upgrade that main entry, our main entry into Lima, from Kibbe Street all the way out to Woodlawn. And we will be replacing the street lighting. We will be replacing signals. We will be repairing curbs and sidewalks and planting trees. So by the end of the summer, it should look very different than it does now. Our other big project this summer is the streetscape project of Spring Street and Elizabeth Streets from Elm to North Street. Excuse me, Elizabeth and West from North to Elm Street. These streets will be reconstructed, which means we take the pavement down to the base, recreate the base. It'll have new curbs, gutters, sidewalks, street light, trees. It'll look very nice, just as Main Street and Market Street, the streetscape areas, do. There's another project that we are pursuing, and perhaps this might be meaningful to you, and perhaps you may not be interested in this. Has anybody crossed the CF&E crossing here at Cable Road lately? Good or not good? Not good. We have had conversations for several years with the railroad, trying to have them repair that. This summer, they explained to us that the problem with that crossing is that there are 4 tracks, and they cross diagonally. They don't cross perpendicular. So as your car rides across there, it begins to wobble much more pronounced than if it was a perpendicular crossing. On top of that, those 4 tracks, those rubberized crossing bunkers have been in there quite a while, well over a decade, and they are broke down. Their life is expended. They need to be replaced. The CF&E tells us the upgrade of that intersection, or excuse me, that crossing is estimated at $1.3 million. They're telling us they don't have the funds to do that. We're telling them it needs to be done. They have asked the city and the county to petition upon their interest to see if we can find some grant funds to assist them in upgrading that rail crossing. They have also proposed to reduce those 4 tracks to 3 tracks, which will take obviously one whole track out of the equation and make it a little bit shorter and a little bit smoother as we do cross. So tonight, not only is that an update that we're trying to do something about it, but it's a very expensive proposition. I'm going to ask a favor of you, this neighborhood group. As we petition the Ohio Rail Commission, it's probably going to make a larger case if we can have interested parties submit letters of endorsement for this project. So we are trying to engage the Chamber of Commerce, Allen Economic Development, the American Township Trustees, the county commissioners, anyone who has a business in this area, and I would think this neighborhood association might be interested in also authorizing a letter of support for this. So as we convene this meeting, I think you might want to give that some thought, some discussion, and if your president would carry out that discussion, and if you're so resolved to do that support, submit a letter of support to me. I will attach that to the other letters of support. Make no promises, but the CF&E is telling us they cannot do it alone. They need assistance, so we're going to try to help them to the best of our ability. That's all I have for this evening. Any questions?
I'd like to ask something.
Yes, ma'am.
A minor thing, I don't know. We came down Elm Street tonight, and it looks lovely, and everything they've done to it and everything like that. And so it's bothered me since they did that all last summer they went around this area and took the trees down between the street and the sidewalks because they came up under the sidewalks, they ruined the they fixed the sidewalks, fixed driveways and everything like that. You go down Elm Street and they put in trees.
Yes.
And brand new things and everything.
Yes.
There's about this much room. They stuck a tree there and people were going to have to mow it and things like that. Why did they put in trees that are going to come up under the new sidewalk?
Well, the question is, on our newer projects, people see trees going in, and in some of the older neighborhoods, we're taking trees out. We're taking trees out because they've died, and we're taking trees out because they've been there 25, 30, 45 years, and if you plant the wrong tree in the wrong place, their roots spread, and they lift the sidewalk up, and they cause problems. At my own house, I've replaced the sidewalks at least twice, maybe 3 times in spots, and it's because people 50 years ago, 70 years ago, planted silver maples, and silver maples are notorious for that root uplift. The trees that we select for the new thoroughfares now are primarily trees that have less invasive roots. So not the silver maple, but you'll see some red maples out there. You'll see other species of trees that do not have that root uplift. It's in our interest, we believe, fundamentally, to have a very beautiful city, and part of that beauty is brought by the street trees through Rick Stolley's Division of Forestry, Parks and Recreation. Without trees, it'd be a much hotter, hostile environment. So we are committed to trying to plant as many trees as we can in neighborhoods. We do this with outside help primarily. Primarily, Rick and his people are out looking for industry or grants to bring money to Lima to do those plantings. So that's what we're about, and that's why we do that.
Okay, it just seemed like as they did all that work around here, and then you see new trees.
Yeah, you see us taking them out in one place and putting them back in the other, but that's some of the background.
Thank you.
Any last questions? Well, thank you.
We want to be clear about the railroad circumstance. Whether it's the crossing on Cable or elsewhere in the community, the city has no ability to do that work ourselves. We don't have the legal right to trespass on the rail property. The best we can do is, as Howard was describing, is try to engage the railroad so they understand the need and their responsibility. It's their property. But federal law prohibits us from going on that, patching or trying to do something ourselves. But we are engaged, and we do encourage people to, when they do have a concern, to actually go directly to the PUCO, who is the regulatory body in charge of those crossings. Steve Cleaves, the city's finance director, is here.
Well, good evening. I'm glad to be here. We just have finished our exercise, and we had our budget approved last month in February, and I think I'll just summarize briefly what that process entails. It's a fairly long process. It starts in September of each year with instructions going out to the administrators to submit their budget needs. We get their input in October, and then we spend the month of November reviewing that, not only reviewing their input, but we also review where the city is in terms of the revenues which are coming in during that last quarter and how our spending is going in the last quarter. So it's a fairly dynamic process. You know, there's not a point in time where we draw a line and, okay, that's our plan and we're going to go on those assumptions, because reality is constantly changing. So we constantly reevaluate what's in that budget. In December, we submit to council an estimate of what the budget will be for the following year. And then we have hearings in January. We have public hearings to which the public's invited, of course. And after a series of hearings in late January, we generally get the budget approved in February. And that was the case this year also. You know, we heard from Safety Services so far and from Howard and Rick, and you'll note that they referred to some hiring process which is going on, and to some significant capital purchases which are happening. And that's a substantial increase in that sort of activity in the last 2 years, in 2011, from 2011 into 2012, and then on into 2013. That's because the city's finances are really on solid ground now. We came through the recession very well. We actually started to constrain our spending early in 2008, prior to the crash in the fall. There were some economists who were very concerned about the housing bubble and what that meant for the economy at large. The city was just beginning to really strengthen its finances coming out of 2007 into 2008. But we held back. We maintained tight controls on our hiring and on our capital through 2008. When the recession hit, we were able to sustain our operations without any real negative consequences. We actually were able to increase our cash balances as a percent of what we spend. During that recession, we've went in the last 10 years from about an 8% cash carryover to a 24%. Actually, we're at 30, but that 30% is due to a one-time cash infusion due to the sale of the old Lima locomotive works, which we sold to the Lima Energy Project. That brought in over $1 million in extra cash. But our cash reserves now stand at 30% of what we spend during a year, and that is what you'd call first-class standard for a city government or a state government, except I don't think you'll find any state governments at that level. And in this late stage of the recession, you won't find many cities at that level. So we are able, in the police department, to do that extra hiring. The 77 that the chief referred to includes 6 officers who are being paid by the state or by the feds in a COPS program. And we have known that that COPS program was temporary, and those funds are going away in 2013 for 4 officers and in 2014 for 2 additional officers. But with our cash reserves, we can keep those officers on the payroll. We're not going to reduce the number of officers on the street. And that's one of the reasons why we built up this cash balance, because we knew we had the obligation to keep those guys on the street. In the fire department, we do not have the federal government funding any of those slots, which we have added a couple of slots there in the last few years. But the city has managed to maintain that manpower number, largely due to actions taken by the chief. He has reorganized his fire department. He has maintained the service level. He's taken on the service to transport patients to the hospitals. And in spite of the additional workload, he has cut his spending by over $500,000 a year while increasing the manpower. Now that's quite an accomplishment. And that's one of the big reasons why the city is in such good shape on a financial basis. On the capital side, we are going to purchase a fire truck this year. We bought one last year. We're going to purchase 4 or 5 cruisers in the police department. We purchased 4 last year. In Mr. Alstro's area, we put in about $200,000 last year in capital improvements in some of the buildings throughout the city. This year, we're going to put in several $100,000 for equipment requirements that he has. But we're not going to spend that cash balance down to where we are jeopardized in case there's another problem. We're going to maintain a cash reserve balance of somewhere around 20%, which is a first-class standard. Since we're now at 30, we can do that over a 3-year period as this economy comes back. So the city's in pretty good shape. We can keep the manpower on hand in the police department, even when the cops' money goes away. And it's really important to keep that in mind, because you're going to be reading stories in the press of other cities nationwide and close to here where they're going to be reducing their police and fire forces because the cops' money is disappearing and they don't have the funds to keep those people on the payroll. That's not the case in the city of Lima. We will keep those individuals on the payroll. Do you have any questions? I'd be glad to answer.
Could you go to Washington and help them? It sounds like you're doing a good job.
Well, I thank you very much for that. But I really have to, as I mentioned, the administrators have done a great job here. And it's not easy to operate when times are tough. You know, I mentioned both the safety services officers, but you know, Howard's done a great job, Amy's done a great job. You know, everybody has pitched in. Actually, to be honest, it's easier to rein in spending in tough times than it is to control it in good times. So I'll say that I have a tougher job now than I did before to keep those reserves where they need to be, because everybody's kind of in a good mood and everybody has an idea for a pet project. So it's a lot tougher job now, but I think we'll manage and we'll keep the city in good shape.
Thanks, Steve. It is good to be able to actually have some comfort about the budget, but as Steve mentioned, the fact is that everybody pitched in, and that meant doing without. You know, I've now testified before Congress about priority setting as it relates to our not only our overall budget, but also our wastewater and water facilities. And it's interesting when you're talking to folks in Congress and at EPA, because when they talk about setting priorities, it's not about, it's about scheduling for them. You just push things off. For us, setting priorities is really about deciding what we're not going to do. Often that's the more difficult decision, and that's what we've done clearly throughout this since 2008 as we've struggled through. We've decided what we weren't going to spend on, and we've done it successfully. Saul Allen is here. He's the director of our street department, and he's, I think, coming to the end of his favorite season.
The yes season. Quick story. Was at the doctor's office this past week. Walked in the office and the nurse said, "Oh no." I was like, "What?" She said, "Every time I see you on TV, I hate to see you because it always means there's snow coming." So, but I'm not here to hopefully signal snow. Real briefly, this past year has been very interesting for my department. I work out of the City of Lima Street Department. This past year, we've gone through a process where we basically have replaced most, if not all, the city-owned streetlights with LED lighting, which actually reduces our electrical bill for all of our streetlights. Basically, that reduces it to almost 30% of what it used to be. So that has been a big project for us. As well, the year before, we did it same thing with the traffic signals. So this has been hopefully trying to reduce some of our costs. As far as this weather, winter weather, actually has been a very slightly worse than last year, but not as bad as the year previous. Good thing about this year is that we did purchase salt under the state bid for $13 a ton less than what we did the previous year. What that means is this is actually the lowest cost we've gotten. We've received salt since I've been with the city, which is almost 10 years. So that is also another cost saving for us. Going forward, like I said, hopefully this is a change of season for us. Things that we are starting to looking forward to doing right now. We'll start being out in city alleys, maintaining city-owned alleys, alleys that are stoned. We'll start going through that process of regrading, stoning those alleys. That usually starts first part of April, usually takes us a couple months to get through. Also, you may start to notice that our street sweeper starting to get out and about a little bit. Usually what we like to do is usually days that are over 34 degrees, the street sweeper will be out. So it has been out a few times this year already. So hopefully we can start getting that out a little more often. Also, Steve mentioned capital. We do have in the works for additional street sweeper at the cost, I think, roughly $165,000. We're in the process of obtaining that as part of our capital expenditures. Also, another thing as part of our capital expenditures, our building. Right now we have a 1940 generator that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, that we are looking to replace. Right now, if we lose power at our building, we not only not have power at our building, but that means all the gas pumps that our building operates do not operate, which supply gas to not only the police, but the fire department and other city services as well. So we are looking to replace that generator in our building. Like I said, right now, the one we have is a 1940, I don't know what year that was, but hopefully get that updated. But going forward, like I said, we got a lot of things. We'll be back out starting to work on catch basin repairs, repairing storm catch basins. So hopefully we can stop the S word, meaning snow, and start moving into our spring processes so we can start moving. We'll also start the We do it all along, but we'll hopefully be able to add more crews to actually patching potholes and being able to get hot mix for potholes to actually repair those potholes. And, you know, a couple ways that you can actually report those, calling into my office, 419-221-5165. But you can now also do it over the website. We are starting to get a few of those requests over the website, so you can also do it that way as well. Any questions? Go ahead.
What is the process of selecting a street to be paved?
Actually, we give our recommendations over to the engineering department. The engineering department actually goes out and take a look at all those, you know, recommendations that we have. They also take recommendations from, I know, council members as well, but they actually do visual inspections of all those streets and determine from their visual inspections our information we provide, information that others provide, which streets are selected. So, go ahead.
I give you a compliment on getting the snow cleaned up so quick. But you live in their neighborhood.
I always tell people, yes, I live in your neighborhood, but believe it or not, just like with your driveways, my driveway gets covered up. Believe me. Believe me. And actually, the only reason the last storm mine didn't get covered up is when the guy came through about 5:30 in the morning. I was physically out there shoveling at the time, and he saw me. So that's why mine didn't get covered up. Go ahead.
When I first moved there, it was like this street wasn't even part of the city. We never got our snow. I mean, this is many years ago.
Okay. Huh.
38 or so.
Oh, okay.
It was like it wasn't there. I think they thought it was not a part of the city.
Interesting.
Since you moved in there, that has really helped.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Really well now.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll pass that on, actually. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay, on the even and odd numbers, and I applaud the city for doing their snow plowing. Those men, there's no way I'd want to take that truck and try to get down some of those streets, your street being one of them, because of how the people are parking. And it would be neat, and I know the policemen are so busy, but to enforce even odd days in case of snow, I think that kind of got that.
And really, I think we have the whole range, because a lot of neighborhoods now, they know, okay, we're going to go park in the school, we're going to go park at the church. Until someone comes down that street, we're going to move out. You know, we have a lot of neighborhoods like that without us even telling them. And some of the streets, we've even gotten to the point where now we have two actual smaller trucks now, two of the small pickup trucks, where some of those streets we have noticed that they are narrow. We're not going to be able to get down them with the larger trucks, so we're just taking the smaller trucks down those. Any other questions? Thank you.
Saul, correct me if I'm wrong. The even and odd parking really applies only to certain streets, correct?
Actually, it applies to the amount of snow. If you get over 4 inches of snow, then you're actually officially supposed to, on odd days, park on the odd side, even days park.
Okay.
If there's parking available on both sides.
Okay. Amy Odom is here from the Department of Community Development. Amy?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having us. I kind of like going late in the batting order because I get to listen to everyone else talk about what they do. And I am with the Department of Community Development, but as I listen to everybody talking, I think we need to change the name because it really is the Department of Community Partnership, in that we work not only internally with the other departments, we work externally with businesses, with other community jurisdictions, the county, the townships, and most importantly, with you, the citizens, to get done what needs to get done. The Department of Community Development actually manages about $17 million worth of different funding sources. And I always have to read these because I will forget them. It's 13 different sources. It is 79 different activities that those funds that funds, but there are 22 different reporting systems. So when you think about when you accept the money, it's never without strings, and all those people want their reports. For those of you who have sat through our neighborhood trainings on grants, you know that Amy's motto is, Amy goes to jail for no one, right? Of those who have been there, which is we make sure all the reporting is sent in to the right people at the right time so we can continue to track those kinds of funds to be able to do demolition, which is done through Mr. Elstro's department. To comment on that, and again, I don't see where he went, but I want to thank him very much for the work of his staff, because over the last 2 years, over 220 vacant and abandoned derelict homes have been removed. We have that has just wrapped up. There's another grant which is coming from the state of Ohio, which will take down about another 46 to 48 vacant and abandoned homes, where the work is being done by Mr. Elstro's department, but the paperwork and the reporting flow through the Department of Community Development. What you're probably most familiar with are the 6 different functions that our department does, which are our housing programs, our land bank program, our neighborhood support program, or the services we provide directly to neighborhood groups for capacity building. We do planning, which are lot splits, variances, that type of thing, which support the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment. We also do, obviously, our code enforcement, which is best known, and then also our economic development. We do manage all of the incentives, that tax incentives and other kinds of things that may go out to assist in attracting businesses. We have a couple very exciting projects going on right now, where the mayor had mentioned earlier the sale of the land to the Lima Energy Company. And there are actually 2 projects that are moving forward there. One, which is the Ohio Advanced Manufacturing, I always get this backward, Ohio Engineering and Advanced Manufacturing Center, which is a consortium of a variety of different manufacturers as well as nonprofits who help to build a research center there, as well as the ongoing activity with Global Energy. We have other kinds of development projects going around that are part of our joint annexation areas. The Kettle Creations, I think you've probably seen in the news that Bob Evans Foods bought Kettle Creations not so long ago. Don't know if you're aware that they're actually doubling in size, which is pretty exciting. That's a lot of mashed potatoes, but that also means some very good jobs for the Lima area. On a more, I'm talking about, again, we should be the Department of Partnership, because the other thing that we're very, very dependent upon, not only the money that we receive from these different sources, but on you, on individual citizens to become involved in what's going on in our community life. And there's a couple dates that I wanted to remind you all about that hopefully we will be seeing you at or involved with. The first is something that you're going to see in the paper. On March 23rd, you will see the annual publication of what we call the Specified Parcel List. That's a long list. It's over 500 lots or properties in the city of Lima that are not being maintained, that we're reminding people on March 23rd that if you own this property, you need to cut the grass, pick up the trash, and maintain it in that condition for the summer. Because if you don't, we will start cutting it for you, and those costs will go on your taxes. Even if you don't own one of those properties, I invite you to look at that list and perhaps give gentle reminders to those folks who you do know that own those properties. When we cut a lawn, we do put those costs on those property bills, but that's coming out of your pocket. Every single one of you is cutting for every uncut lawn in the city of Lima. So if you were aware of a property that is not being maintained, you are always welcome to call it in. But we also want to encourage you to encourage your neighbors and help your neighbors if necessary to get that work done. The other thing that's coming up soon are our citywide pride cleanups and the Ottawa River cleanup. I think, Arlie, you probably got your application in or are going to get that in soon. Good for you. This group has always been one that has been faithful in manning your dumpster. We appreciate that, because that takes out a lot of trash over the month of May that you, again, as taxpayers, are not paying to have picked up out of alleys later on. The other thing that's going on is the Ottawa River cleanup, where we have a huge joint effort. Again, a real partnership with the Ottawa River Coalition, with Husky Energy, with many other companies in town to actually get out and clean up along our river corridors. I think the mayor and Rick have mentioned it, but if you've not had an opportunity to take a walk along our river walks, you really should, because they are, even for short periods of time, it's a beautiful, beautiful new vista on our city, and the Ottawa River cleanup helps with that. The other thing that we need to also talk about is something that's very exciting for neighborhood groups, and an amazing partnership between the fire department, the city of Lima, and LACNIP, the Lima Allen County Neighborhoods in Partnership. The fire station that closed on Spring Street will now be the LACNIP Resource Center, and the open house is going to be on April 7th. That's the date where you're all invited to come and see the services that will be provided there. I really want to applaud Arlie and everyone else who's been involved, and Bob and anyone else I'm missing, John and Reverend Horton, who've been involved with LACNIP and taking that network organization of neighborhood groups and getting them to a level where they're going to be able to start providing more direct services to you. As an example, we're going to be moving the neighborhood tool shed. If you need tools to be able to clean up your property, they're going to be available there. Everything from paintbrushers to lawnmowers to other kinds of things that you as a group, if you need to help someone in your neighborhood or want to make improvements to your own property, will be available to you. Other types of training on neighborhood development will also be available at that resource center. So I want to encourage everyone and thank everyone who's been involved with that. Lastly, on a personal note, I too am Irish by marriage, like Rick. My mother was a Pulowski and a Rogalski. I identify myself as really being Polish. My father was German, but my husband's mother was Julie Lynch Croft Kerrigan, who was born on St. Patrick's Day. So I was thinking that there's got to be an Irish blessing for neighborhoods, right? There has to be one. So I found one, and it says, "May your neighbors respect you, troubles neglect you, angels protect you, and heaven accept you." So happy St. Patrick's Day, and thank you for coming out on holiday.
That was cute. Appreciate that. And speaking of cute, we've saved him till the last. Our Deputy Utilities Director, Mike Caprella. Mike?
I thought maybe you didn't see me back there, and I was going to be able to get out of here without saying anything, but it's good to be here. Just like Saul, when people see me, they always say, "Oh no," but I think for a lot of other reasons, so, they say that, yeah. And it's good to be here, and it's good to be here and not have somebody laying behind you right here, so that's a good thing too, so I'm kind of glad. So we've just finished probably the last 2 years of the busiest 2 years we've had in the I'll talk water, issues. I guess Gary was here last month, spoke to your group on sewer issues. I'll stick to the water side of it tonight. As you know, we had a lot of projects that we've completed, huge projects, within the utilities department. The largest one was the new reservoir we built out west of town, just immediately west of Bressler Reservoir. The new Williams Reservoir, which holds 5.1 billion gallons of water. It actually increased our water supply by 50%, a huge addition and a huge economic development tool. Amy talked about the projects and the expansion of Kettle Creations to Bob Evans. They need water, and they need a lot of water. Now we have a lot of water. We've always had a lot of water. Now we have more water. And we can attract more big businesses. So eventually when this economy does totally turn around, people are looking to build again, we're going to be ripe for that. We've got the water supply there. We've also added in that southern area by our industrial area a new water tower that was completed last year. 1.5 million gallons up in the air. We had 2 elevated tanks prior to that, and those 2 together held 1.5 million. This new tank holds as much as the other 2 towers did combined. And that adds extra pressure, and that adds extra volume to that area, which makes it even more attractive for an industry to come. We also built a huge addition onto the water treatment plant. We added carbon contactors. It's activated carbon. It's another step in the barrier process of treating water. And it'll do 2 things. One, it helps us comply with regulations. There was regulations that were in effect last year that had that not been there, we may not have met some of them regulations. The carbon removes organic matter, all kinds of organic matter, including algae. A lot of times in the fall, when it would be warm all summer long, the water sometimes would get a little bit of a taste to it, or we'd have to add a little extra chlorine to the water, and you taste the chlorine. Well, with the carbon, That doesn't happen anymore. So it helps us comply with regulations, makes the water even taste better. The reservoir, we talked about recreational uses. Even in the wintertime, we have people constantly walking around the top of the reservoirs. The new reservoir, Williams Reservoir, is really kind of scenic because we had to cut out around a few woods. There were wetlands, and so it's just not just out in the middle of a farm field and 4 huge walls and water in between it. It's really pretty if you walk around it. Now, it's a long way around. It's almost 4 miles to walk. So I can make it 4 miles, barely, but I can still do it. But we are putting some benches up there, believe it or not, for people that like to walk. So they are actually on order, and by spring, we're putting them on Furl Williams Reservoir and not on some of the others. There's just not a lot of room around the top of those reservoirs. If you've ever been up the top, it's kind of a narrow, and we've got to get up there and get equipment up there to mow. But with Williams Reservoir, we've got some turnaround areas that are large enough that we can place some of these benches. So there's going to be 3 of them strategically placed around the top of Williams Reservoir. So if you want one you want to walk and you think that you can't go 4 miles straight, you can walk a third, sit down a little bit, watch the waves hit against the rock, and walk a little more. So, yeah. So that's, and we've had people actually request that walk that would like to just have a place to sit down when they walk halfway around. So those will be installed here probably within the next 2 months. We have a couple projects going right now. There's a water line. If you went north of town out towards Cairo, there's a 16-inch water main. It's almost to Cairo. It's going to serve approximately 220 households, in the Cairo area. And that just enhances our supply to the north and helps us eventually loop our system and get more customers. There's also engineering underway right now to get water to Westminster and to Rudolph Foods. And that's an added benefit of the water tower that we just put up, because the water tower has the capability not only to add extra pressure, but we designed in that water tower, in the base of that room, to put booster pumps to pump the water. The further you go and the higher you go in elevation, you have to either put more elevated tanks or you have to put more pumps to pump the water. So we have designed that so that we can put booster pumps in, and that's all being worked on now. So probably by the end of the year, we're going to see some probably activity heading that way, heading to the southeast. So we've got a lot of projects we just completed the last couple of years, but we have more on the table now. So we're constantly keeping up to date and keeping your water system where it needs to be. With that, any questions? This is good. No questions. Yes. Oh, that's right. I tried to. Thank you.
Mike was being modest. This past week, was it Thursday? Yes. He and the engineers for the Williams Reservoir received an award from a statewide engineering association for the design and the construction of the Williams Reservoir. So it's being recognized as a really terrific asset for our community. I'll just wrap up with a few remarks about what's happening in the community in terms of particularly the economy. We came through this recession actually in pretty good shape. Our industries, if you look at what happened in many communities, our industries really held their own. And for about the last 18 months now, most of those industries have now been on a slow hiring curve. And in fact, as we talk to plant managers and HR personnel with those industries, they're now beginning to complain about the need for additional qualified personnel. And that, and so the Chamber and the Allen Economic Development Group, our Auto Task Force and others have been working to try to focus on workforce development, additional training opportunities, and the need for folks to step up and get skills that can qualify them for jobs in our industries. The other challenge, really the one big challenge that we have focused on our industries, has to do with the Joint Systems Manufacturing Center. I co-chair the task force, what we call Task Force Lima, which focuses on trying to keep the tank plant open. It's a big task. We have previously, the last time we went through what was called a BRAC, which was a congressionally required base closure process, that was in 2005. And our efforts really had us making trips to D.C. To meet with the congressional representatives and to meet with folks at the Pentagon. We survived that process, and obviously we were able actually to see the work at the tank plant grow until about 2009. And that's when things started to slip again. We first of all had Secretary Gates, Defense Secretary Gates, made the decision along with the Marine Corps Commandant to kill what was called the EFV program, which was the new marine transport vehicle that they had spent $3 billion developing, and it got set aside. We've since then begun to see additional cuts pertaining to other products that the JSMC makes, including a proposal from the Army that all production should be suspended for a 3-year period. We've been actively engaged in trying to change minds about that. And we've been focused on a study that has been done that actually talks about the alternative to temporary shutdown is a low rate of production. By keeping a low rate of production in place, we actually don't disrupt or even kill the supply chain. There's literally several hundred businesses, manufacturers across the country that are supplying parts for the tank plant and its products. If it's temporarily shut down, many of those businesses will go out of business. It's not a matter of a temporary circumstance. And so we've been arguing that the better way to go is with a very low rate of production. The other thing that we've done is focus not on going to Washington, but instead on getting decision makers to come here. And in the last 18 months, we've been able to get 90 individuals who are either in the Congress or at the Pentagon in decision-making roles to actually come to Lima to visit and to tour the facility. And that has been a very effective way of convincing folks that what we have here is a true national asset, something that should be maintained because of its complexity and because of the need ultimately for the tank. In 2005, ahead of 2005 actually, the Pentagon had been forecasting that the Abrams tank as a weapon system would go away in a few years. As a part of that BRAC process, they reevaluated that and ultimately decided that the Abrams will be a part of the nation's defense for the next 50 years. So the Pentagon itself has said that the tank will in fact be a permanent part of the nation's defense, and it's in that context that we can make the argument that a short 3-year period shutdown doesn't make sense, and that in fact it jeopardizes the need for an industrial facility that can maintain that system on a long-term basis. So, but for that challenge, which is really a political challenge, the economic issues facing our industries locally actually are pretty positive. And the one constraint that they're beginning to really begin to think hard about has to do with workforce. So we're encouraging kids, we're encouraging adults to seek out training opportunities that can get them the skills necessary to be able to compete for those jobs because they're here. And we know that looking at the investment cycles that these businesses are going through, these are businesses that are going to be here for a long time. And we can appreciate the scale of the investments that are being made. I'd be glad to answer any questions about any of that or anything else that we touched on tonight. Nothing else.
You got an election coming up, huh?
Oh, there's always an election coming up. Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. And as we, anytime, you know who the department heads are. They would welcome your calls. I would welcome your calls if you have questions or concerns. And we'll look forward to working with you. Thank you.